One of my favourite summer methods on still waters is very simple, although I love my waggler fishing. Quite like fishing close in with a rod and reel, but the reel is a fairly simple Centrepin, a Rapidex, loaded with about £5 line, and then a fairly small pole float taking anything between about half and 1 gram in loading, and then maybe a number 8 or 2 droppers below that, and a fairly short hook length, a bit like pole fishing, with a decent size hook, anything from a 16 up to about 12, and then fishing baits like sweetcorn or expander pellets, and even tears on there. And that's just what I did this week. I went on to a small still water that's set in the heart of Dorset, nicely secluded, although there seems to be a lot of noise from gardening work at times, but generally fairly quiet. Occasionally the buzzards visit, and this water, the level's down about maybe 7 or 8 inches, so in the winter it will be up a bit, but it's about 1 metre deep, about 3.5 foot deep, so in the winter it'll be over 4 foot deep. Fairly level bottom. It's got lots of roach in it, a few skimmers, the odd tench. I'm told there used to be lots of tench in there, some quite decent sized carp, 1 or 2 good perch, and for reasons that I don't quite understand, it seems to have received a stocking of little F1s all about 5 inches long, which are quite frankly a bit of a pain in the butt, because you get lots of little nibbly bites and they don't really register, and you don't really want to catch fish like this when there's some quite good fish in there. This is the 3rd time I've fished there. The first time I had a couple of very good roach, over £1, and some other good roach. Lost a carp, had a tench, and I think that was about it. The second trip I hooked a couple of carp, but I did land one, and that was fishing a pole with a puller system. Quite a few roach again, although not quite as big as the first time. Fish up to about 12 ounces, quite nice. And then the last time was, like I say, this week, and instead of the pole, I'm fishing with a rod and reel. The great thing about the Rapidex is that there's a little tension adjuster that if you were trotting, you'd wind it right off so the reel is as free running as possible. But when you're on a still water and you're just dropping the rig off the rod tip, you don't want the reel spinning freely. You still want it to spin all right. So you tend to crank the little tensioner down a bit so that the reel, well, it'll give line without any bother at all when you're playing fish. Just doesn't start giving out too much line, causing tangles. There is a ratchet on here, but try to, unless the rod isn't in use, I wouldn't bother with the ratchet, just annoy everyone else. It's a funny sort of session. I started with small pellets, 4mm expanders, quickly caught a little F1, a little tiny skimmer, which was the only one I had, and a fairly small roach. And after that I tried tears, corn, and had 1 or 2 net roach, which was quite nice, but nothing especially big, maybe 10 ounces, and eventually got a nice little tench, which was surprisingly scrappy. I could see the carp a fair way out. They seemed to be drifting around the end of a lily bed where no one was actually fishing, sort of staying out of harm's way. There was a guy to my left casting out a ledger who seemed to cast it out randomly, and all I saw him catch was a roach, but that's how life goes. And generally it seemed to be fairly quiet. It was, say, quite blustery, But this Centrepin method is definitely worth a go. Any old Centrepin will do. You don't need the world's greatest trotting reel. And like I say, load it up with 4 or 5 pound line and you can handle some good fish. I've used this method since probably the 1990s. Had carp to around 15 pounds doing it. Lots of tench, crucians, bream, roach, rudd. And the rig you use is up to you. You can put a little waggler on the end, or as I do, just a pole float. The wind was causing quite a lot of drift, and probably with a pole you could hold the rig still instead of the drift tending to pull it in. But I wasn't too bothered about that. It's just a bit of fun fishing for a couple of hours, and it was good to get out after a lot going on at the moment for me, and finding time to fish is not easy. However, until next time, it's goodbye for now.